virtual option to it. So even if it goes back to an in-person convention, there will always be a virtual option, which is amazing, because this convention is held internationally one year, and then it's held in the States the next year. So this is the year for the States, and off the top of my head, I can't tell you where it's going to be next year, but it'll be an international location next year.
Yeah, and they really want to strive to make this the largest number of outcome of attendees ever. So
Yes.
if you can attend, please do. This is a rare opportunity, and you get to see some cool stuff from people all over the world, and it makes you realize you really are a part of something major and really big.
Yep. So mark your calendars. We'll send out a reminder. We can send one out on Facebook too.
That's right.
And that way, if you can log in, log in.
That's right. Exactly.
All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Christi. She is here to present with us about the Guatemalan Literacy Project this morning. So Christi, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for having me, especially in these difficult times. There's so much going on. I heard some echo. Is that me?
I don't know.
Okay.
Carrie, can you mute Dan?
Sure.
I think I'm okay. Okay, good. Thanks. Sorry. So I just wanted to tell you one or two things before I go to my slide presentation. And the one or two things that I wanted to share with you is my experience with Guatemala. And in 2008, I went on a mission trip with my church to Guatemala. And I can't begin to tell you how overwhelming the poverty was. We were two groups. Our mission trip was divided into two groups. I was on the construction group, and we were building a little small cement house, and then we couldn't come back the next day because there was a landslide, so we couldn't get there. So they were going to have to finish that when we weren't there. And so when they had some backup projects, you know, we couldn't do what we were really there to do. And so they had some backup projects, and we were told that we were going to replace a roof. And so in my mind, I had a house that was made of cement block and had a corrugated roof over top. And we were going to remove the corrugated roof, put a new corrugated roof on. When we got there, we had a house that was about, I don't know, 8 by 10 on a generous estimate. And it had corrugated metal sides, and it had a corrugated roof. And what held it together was 4 2x4s, one in each corner. There was no doorway. There was a material flap that came down across the doorway. So corrugated metal sides, corrugated metal top, there are no windows. So we, you know, the story goes on. I don't want to necessarily get sidetracked. I just wanted to paint that picture of the real poverty that I'm talking about, because it was poverty like I had never seen before. So with that being said, let me get to my slides and we'll move on.
I made you the host, Christi, so you can easily upload or share it.
Oh, crime. Oh, there they are. You know what? You don't need to do that. It works anyway.
Oh, good.
I'm always surprised when people tell me that. But anyway, yeah. Okay, I'm almost there. Can you see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Here we go. All right, super. So the Guatemalan Literacy Project, it's a network of individual Rotarians, Rotary clubs and districts and the nonprofit organization Cooperative for Education, working to end the cycle of poverty in Guatemala through education. Now, a common question we get is, why Guatemala? Well, because Guatemala is one of the poorest, least educated countries in the Western Hemisphere. 4 out of 5 indigenous Guatemalans live in poverty, and the average indigenous adult has less than a 5th grade education. Though progress has been made, 2 out of every 3 children still drop out of school by the 6th grade because their parents can't afford to send them. This is a key driver of poverty throughout the country. So many of you may have heard of the GLP before, but let's back up and make sure that we're all on the same page. The GLP is a partnership between Rotary and co-ed to promote literacy in Guatemala. It truly is a perfect marriage of resources. The Rotary brings name recognition, a global network of professionals and resources to make the projects happen, while co-ed brings a dedicated Guatemalan staff of teachers, trainers, and experts that ensure the long-term sustainability of the programs. The GLP is one of the largest grassroots, multi-club, multi-district projects in Rotary. Over the past 20 years, the project has included 600 plus Rotary clubs, 80 plus districts, 46 states, and 8 different countries. Nearly 225,500 students have benefited from the GLP programs over the past 20 plus years. You know, that's enough people to fill a Major League Baseball stadium 5 times over. So the GLP currently has 207 textbook program schools, 94 Sparks reading program schools, 53 computer program schools, and 731 RISE scholars. That means in 2020, over 57,000 students will be affected by a GLP program each day. The Guatemalan Literacy Project really has a comprehensive approach. You can see it covers K through 12. So I want to tell you a little bit more about each one of these aspects. The Sparks Reading Program is the K through 6 program. And I want to talk a little bit about why it's truly necessary. And that's because simply 1 out of 3 indigenous Guatemalans can't read or write. So an average indigenous Guatemalan adult has fewer than 5 years of education. So when kids from the US go to school, most of them have been exposed to the ABCs. Most of them may have seen the little blocks with ABCs on them, or they've seen books, the A is for apple, B is for ball, you know, that kind of thing. They've at least been exposed. Most of these homes, you don't see a book, much less blocks. So what can we do about that? Well, in the Sparks program is embedded teacher training and access to high quality books. Most elementary school teachers in Guatemala didn't receive proper training in how to teach reading and literacy. Many of them didn't go to college, and they graduated from high school and then went straight to teaching elementary school. So the Sparks teachers received 42 hours of training, 3 to 5 in-class observations from a licensed trainer, and an average of 150 books for their classroom. They learn over 100 different techniques to engage their students in the reading process. This technique that you're seeing right here, the slide looks weird. Anyway, is basically the teachers turning the book around so that the kids can see the book. And I know that seems so simple. And when I first learned that this is something they actually take time to teach, I thought, wow, where did I learn that? And I had to think back, and I could never remember learning to turn the book around so the kids could see it when you read a story to the kids. But you know, that came, probably the best I can figure, that came because people did it for me when I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we just learned by example. And there was no example in this case. And so it's something that has to be taught. So that's a simple example, but there are lots others too. This one is a more complex example. So in this case, the kids read the story, and then to help them incorporate the story and comprehend the story, they act it back out. And then another example is, as they get older, they learn how to write their own books. So these kids go from hearing a story, engaging in that story, and then creating their own story. So they become authors before our very eyes. So that's the K through 6. And then moving on to the middle school programs, that's when they come in with their textbook program. 90% of rural students in Guatemala, they don't have access to textbooks. Can you imagine going to school without a textbook? Can you just even imagine? So according to the 2016 UNESCO policy paper, providing textbooks and making sure that teachers are engaged and prepared are the top 2 ways to improve the quality of education in the developing world. And the GLP does both. So what is our solution? Well, yeah, we provide textbooks to these schools in 4 subject areas: math, science, social studies, and Spanish language. And guess who helps us bring those books? You. Rotarians come down to help us deliver these life-changing textbooks. And if that appeals to you, well, yeah, you can come join us. Come to Guatemala and see where your Rotary dollars are going. So what's the real impact of all these textbooks? Well, it gives the teachers 25% more classroom time. Just think how much more students learn in a year. That's the time they would have been making scribbly little textbooks on tablets, because they had to copy what was on the blackboard. So because of this, the textbooks, kids who receive textbooks score significantly higher on national standardized tests in math and reading than kids who don't. So it really makes a difference. We have another project in the middle school, and that's the computer project. Many Guatemalan students may never touch a computer in their educational career. And you know, that's a big issue. And that's big because 60% of the mid-level jobs in Guatemala require the use of a computer. And we know in our ever-changing world, that number is going to just increase over time. So again, we provide computers to these schools, and students receive training on how to use them. And over their 3 years of middle school, they receive 100 lessons on using a computer. And at the end of those 3 years, 95% of the students can find a job using their new skills or continue their education in high school. 95% of them can get a mid-level job because they had that computer training. So if we just delivered computers and textbooks to these schools, we'd be doing a good job. We'd be doing what these kids needed for the short term. But what's really wonderful about this program is its sustainability. So for every $5 that we invest, every year one student pays $1. So at the end of 5 years' time, then they can replace the textbooks, replace the computers. So after the initial investment from the GLP, these programs are 100% self-sustaining. And over 22 years, more than 100 schools have renewed their textbooks, computers, or both. So that's takes us moving on to the RISE Youth Development Program. And that starts in 7th grade and it goes up to the end of high school. Students have, studies have shown that in Guatemala, you need a high school degree to break the cycle of poverty. The problem is that 95% of poor kids never graduate from high school. Staying in school, it's like climbing Mount Everest for these kids because they're up against not only poverty, but things like abuse, a lack of support at home, teen pregnancy, widespread alcoholism, and gang violence in some of their communities. The RISE program selects students who are about to drop out of school and skyrockets their graduation rate to 80%. So let me review those numbers. If they weren't a RISE scholar, they have 5% chance of graduating. If they become a RISE scholar, they have 80% chance of graduating from high school. How is that possible? That's because the RISE program is not just a scholarship program. It's really much more. So in this slide, we see job skills training in process. This is a RISE student practicing a mock interview. The RISE program also exposes kids to different careers. So a lot of these indigenous students are from the highlands of Guatemala. They're up there in the mountains and they don't come down into town very often. And so you ask these kids, what is really going on? Does somebody see that, or do I just see that somebody's waiting to come into the waiting room? Sorry. It's somebody by the name of Richard Deggs. Should I let him in?
Good.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
admit.
Oh yeah, let him in.
Sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
So, no problem. Getting back to career training in the GLP, in the RISE program. So these indigenous kids in the up in the mountains of Guatemala, if you ask them when they're little, what do they want to do when they grow up? You know, the only career thing that they've ever seen is a teacher. And so they say teacher, and there's nothing the matter with being a teacher, but you know as well as I do, we're not all meant to be teachers. And so they don't even know that there's something else out there. So part of the RISE program is to take them on field trips to go see what kind of other careers they are. So they go to the airport, they go to the call centers, they go to hospitals, they go to who knows what all, but they, and I don't even know where they are in this slide, but they get exposed to different things to see what all is out there that they might be interested in learning about. Oh, my slide now, and my slide isn't moving. Oh my
You may
goodness.
have to hit it a couple times.
Yeah,
There you go.
that was weird. I had to hit something totally different. Okay, sorry. So here they're in their this is their leadership program in process. They have leadership training, and so part of that training is they have to identify a problem in their community and present solutions to the problems. And then moving on, I hope this works. Yes, good. They have social and psychological support. They have a community of peers and staff guides and mentors and even licensed psychologists for the students that really need that professional support. And in addition, student sponsors serve as a huge inspiration to keep them going in school. They have education on human rights and life skills on topics ranging from financial education to self-esteem to human rights and dignity. And lastly, RISE scholars learn to give back. They design community service activities to benefit those in need. And let me tell you a story. The girl on the left here is Anselma. She's one of the first RISE scholars who graduated in 2012. And she's pictured with her mother and grandmother, 3 generations of Guatemalan women. Grandma is illiterate and desperately poor. Mom is illiterate and desperately poor. And Selma, right after graduation, was taking classes in college, working at a call center, and making 4 times more than her dad. In 1 generation, we've broken the cycle of poverty in this family through education. The story doesn't end there. This is Aunt Selma and her little girl, Abigail. Abigail will never need a scholarship. She'll never know what it's like to grow up in poverty. Sorry. When former Rotary International President Ian Reesley came to visit, local Rotarians chose to highlight the GLP. After seeing the work firsthand, he called the GLP the gold standard of Rotary projects. And here in this slide, my goodness, yeah, there we go, good. We see other Rotarians who've traveled to Guatemala with the GLP and experienced life-changing moments serving students there. Some even chose to personally sponsor a student's education and were able to meet them in person. What an amazing experience. So here's the big question. How can you and your club help more students like Aunt Selma? Well, here's one key way. You can join the global grant with a contribution as small as $100, and we will help you request a match from the Rotary Foundation, which could multiply your club's funds up to 3.5 times. The average club contribution is $1,000, but we welcome support in any amount. And maybe one day your club can even send a representative to see your impact in Guatemala. So I skipped a slide. I wanted to thank you so much for the opportunity to share about the Guatemalan Literacy Project. You know, we truly believe that these children, once educated, will help pull their communities and their regions and ultimately Guatemala permanently out of poverty. And I really thank you for the consideration that you give to what your club might do to help us. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, thank you for this. And I'm assuming that I could get some more information from you, like more detailed information on that I could pass to people who were able to make it. This session is being recorded, but you know, just probably connecting you with our foundation chair also to see, you know, make sure we understand exactly how we can contribute, you know, through the grant program.
If at the bottom of this slide, see the guatemalaliteracy.org/get-involved.
Yes.
That answers a ton of questions.
There we go. That's what I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I also there wasn't a lot of. I saw a lot of photos of women. Is it more predominantly young ladies that are involved with these programs, or it's in education? Or?
It is more the girls that are involved, and the girls are involved because in the program more so because there's less cultural value in getting girls to go to school, and so there's a push to make that happen, it just plays out that way. So they have more girls who are RISE scholars than otherwise. It doesn't mean there aren't any of the guys, but they're because there are, but it just more so girls. The jobs out there for the guys or more manual labor type things that a lot of the Guatemalans get involved in if they've not made it through high school. So, or gotten that computer training that gets them into those higher level jobs. So,
Yeah.
Any other question?
Well, I think we're going to send Ashley to Guatemala. She's our world traveler.
I've never been, but they're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people.
Beautiful people, and the country is fantastically beautiful. I was so surprised when I came back. I was on Yahoo when we're back in the early 2000s or late 2000s, but and I was just, surfing the net or something, and I saw something about the 10 most beautiful lakes in the world. And I clicked on it because I'm a traveler too. Anyway, so I clicked on it, and lo and behold, Lake Atilan, where I was on the edge of Lake Atilan in the highlands of Guatemala when I was there on my mission trip. And there it was, one of the top 10 beautiful lakes in the world.
That's awesome.
It has three, it really is awesome. It has three, oh my goodness, volcanoes along the edge of it. Just,
wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. But anyway, it's beautiful country, beautiful people. It's interesting that the group that started Cooperative for Education was working on their own in a very small, tiny way long ago, and the Rotary clubs in Guatemala said, "Oh my goodness, you have such a wonderful program. We need to help you make it bigger and better," and that's what got this whole thing started 20 plus years ago, with the Rotary being such a key part of the Guatemalan Literacy Project. So,
and what I love about what y'all do is that it's full circle, to where you don't just come in and say, I'm going to fix your problems, but you help address root cause. And there are a number of root causes, but y'all come in with solutions to really empower them, so that, like, the goal is to work yourself out of the need to even go, right? And so they then, through the program, are able to then give back to the community. Like, that was a really moving part of what you were talking about. It was a picture of the young girl, like, giving to those in need. Like, she was once one in need, and now she's helping those who are in need in her community. And that's so moving, because that's what you want to see, is that cycle continue, to where whenever y'all leave and you go back home and do, back into your normal American life, that work is still, that's an eternal legacy,
Absolutely. Right. I agree.
yeah, definitely. I'm so impressed with the work that's done there. Anyway, thank you for your time. If you go to the GuatemalanLiteracy.org, get involved. You'll have stuff there. I also, when I go in person, I have brochures that I can hand out on how to go on a tour with the GLP to Guatemala, and how to be a sponsor of a RISE scholar, and just I can send those on to you if you'd like. The global grant obviously is yet again different. And then I also, the co-founder and now president, has a video of his presentation. So if it's the same content, same slides, he has a different spin. Everybody has their own little spin on it. But if you'd like a copy of that, I can send that to you as well.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I will do that. And then, if there's any way or any questions you think of that you want answers to, please get back in touch with me. Seriously, I'd be glad to either get somebody else to find the answers or answer them myself. So thanks.
Well,
Thank you.
Christy. We didn't
Does anybody have any questions before we close out? I just want to make sure. And I did put the link in the chat box. If anybody wants to grab that out of there to get more information and get involved. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy. We really appreciate you coming and speaking to us today.
Christy, you can transfer the host back, or
You're gonna have to tell me how to do that.
oh,
Did you make her a co-host?
I'll tell you what, don't hang up.
Wayne, did you log in as 380 Rotary, or are you on a different one?
Oh, I'm on 380 Rotary, but
Dwayne might be logged in too, so that might be your saving grace.
I just want to make sure. I didn't want you to hang up and close us out. So
No, okay, and I won't. That's fine. In the meantime, I'm looking. This happened to me once before, and somebody told me go to the corner. Hang on. Oh, you keep talking, and I'll work on that. Okay.
All right, that's one thing I can do. So, does anybody have anything for the good of Rotary? Okay, everybody's still on mute. Okay, so hey Richard, what's going on?
we don't want to know.
I just asked.
We don't have enough time, and I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning.
Just keep Richard in his
Let's go with that.
prayers. Keep Richard in your prayers.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Well then, we'll go ahead and Richard, since you're unmuted, would you like to lead the 4-way test for us? Have you done that before? Or, okay.
Sure. The 4-way test of things we think, say, or do. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendship? Lord knows we need a dose of that. Number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Number 5, have some fun.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay.
Y'all be safe. Y'all be careful. If y'all ever need something, you know my number. Give me a call. And I realize it's 911.
Really easy.
As well.
911.
We love you.
Richard, we got some fun stuff coming to y'all, Richard. So just hang tight,
And
get your taste buds ready.
thank you for the birthday card. It's nice being remembered.
Denise.
Yeah, that's next week.
You hear that, Richard?
Hey, Richard, you look amazing for 60. I'm telling you.
Wow. Wow.
I feel the love.
Man, I look rotten for someone who's 22.
All right, guys, I'm gonna hit this bell one more time. There we go.
Y'all be safe.
Y'all have
If y'all need
amazing.
something, seriously, call me. You got my number.
All right.